Okay, so when you start your Android Studio, it will show you like that. To start a new project, you need to click on that particular specific start a new Android Studio project. We click on that. Now here it is asking us to select a type of the activity that you want to create by default, the first activity. You can select the basic one, you can select the empty one, we have the navigation bottom. So we have different types, different styles of that one. But right now for the learning purposes, we will stick to that particular empty activity. And then we click next. Here it is asking us the names. Okay, the name of the project. So where we want to put our project. So we can say that our first app, and if we look at that, it is going into that particular, let me I want to save at a specific location. We have 19 block week 1, and I say open, and now there is something wrong because when we are changing the location, first time when we are changing the name, like if I say that my first app, it is not changing it here. Okay, so what it will do, it will create all the files inside the week 1 which we don't want. So that's why we will give that particular specific first app. Okay, so first app, then we can select which language we want to use. Now we have two different options, one is the Java and the Kotlin, but we will stick with Java. The minimum API level, that is the minimum version of the Android system that will be supported by your application. Any Android mobile which is running the version which is low, like 5.1 or 5 or 4.5, will not be able to install and use your application. Only the Android versions which are using the Android version 6.0 or later, the latest versions, the newer versions, they can install your application and they can use. And look at that, we can see that 62.6% devices of which are running the Android, they can run your, that's quite a big amount of the people that can use our application. And then we also have these options that we will talk about later, and then we click finish. When we click finish, it will of course create that particular specific project for me. Yeah, it's all done. So if we look at that, it has already created me two files. One is the Java code file and the other one is the layout file. And remember that if you want to see that particular specific view of the mobile, you can simply go that particular eye and then say that show me that layout decorations. Okay, so now it's more like, okay, this is a mobile screen. Fine. So if you want to see something like this, that's the way you can do that. Otherwise they are not showing up in a by default. In the previous version it was showing it by default, but now they have changed the things in the version number 3. And then in the last class we talk about what are the different things here. Let me go through with again. So we have the manifest file. That manifest file is actually a kind of the setting file for your application. We have application tag and all the activities that you are going to create in this particular project, that will be listed down here. And here in this particular specific intent filter, we are telling our application that this is whenever you are going to, a user is going to run your application from your icon by clicking on that icon of the app, then it will always start this particular main activity. As I told you last time that we can enter into an application, we can start an application from any activity, from any service or any content provider or the broadcast receiver. Yes, we can do that, but by default this will be the starting point whenever the user hit that particular app button. That is the point where we are going to start our application. Fine. So this is our starting. That particular specific intent filter is actually fixing that particular main activity as our starting activity for the application. So this is our Android manifest file. which specify different settings, like what are the it allow that backup, what will be the icon of that particular, what will be the top label. What is a top label? This first tab. Okay, so that app label is going to change. Okay, so what is a round icon and so on. So it will give us some different settings of that application or the project that we want to develop. This is the area, the Java. We have three different parts here. Number one, that is the main part where we are Java codes of files are there. If you want to work with write your test, we have the unit test here. We also have some tests that Android tests, unit tests. So if you want to work with tests, then you have to add your test code here, which will test different functionality of your applications. Like if you want to test that this button is performing the click event properly, the user input validation is being done properly and all, so you can write those codes here for the testing purposes. But this is not what we are going to do. We will be just concentrate on how we can develop the application right now. Then we have the resource folder. Inside the resource folder we have the drawable. All of your images resources, they will go into that particular folder. And remember that whenever we are talking about the resources, the resource file name must be the smaller letters or the underscore only. If you are giving the capital letter, that will break your application. And sometime you are like downloading a specific file, image file from the internet and just copy pasting here, and then that particular file name has the capital letters inside it, and then my project was working perfectly fine just moment before. Now I've just added this particular resource file and it stopped working. Why? What is the reason? Why? I mean, what is happening? So that is the reason, because that particular resource file name has something which is not matching with the naming conventions inside the resource folder. Drawable, all the images go in here. Layout, this particular layout that automatically created by our, what you can say that our Android Studio, it is going into that particular layout. So all the layout files, they will go into that one. These are the MIP map. These are more kind of an icons for your application. If you want to change them, you can change them here. If you want to add more new things, you can do it here. And the last part is the values. And let me go with the string and look at that. Here you have the app name. If I change that particular specific value from here, then I like our, we can say that first linear layout. First linear layout. So when I change this thing, it should have changed here as well. Yep, look at that, first linear layout. How it is changing? Actually, if we look at that here, that label, that is actually representing a specific, it say that inside this resource folder string, we have defined a string variable name, app name, and that will be the label of our application. So that label is actually coming up here. So when we change in the strings file that particular app variable name, in this file it automatically change here. Fine. We also have the colors. These colors are actually representing our colors here. This action bar, this status bar, what are the colors here? Let me change a few things here. Like if I say that this is my color here, primary. I am just changing it from this to this. So if we go back to our this one, look at that. It has changed that particular application bar, action bar color. So these colors you can change, you can modify, but yeah, we want to undo. Control Z. What's happening? I just want to undo. Okay, fine. So we go back here. What's happening? my Android view. Undo the last operation. Okay, fine. What's happening? Okay, we have just changed the colors. Where's my whole project gone? Okay, so let me close that particular project. I think there is something goes wrong though. And what I do, I just go into that particular specific folder here, delete my first app. We haven't done anything. We are just, where's my project folder, and then I go into the Otago Polytechnique 721, this week 1, and I want to delete that particular first app. Fine. Okay, so I just go into here, create a new file, start with that. We have already discussed this thing, we are not going to discuss it again. So my application, I think it's going to the week 1 my application. Okay, my application is there. Fine. So I was discussing about that values strings. We have discussed, we have colors, we have discussed, and this is the style. Like if I say that if I just change that particular to the dark action bar or the no action bar, and if I go back here and see my preview here, let me go down and show me that particular decoration. I have changed it. Did I need to save it? Okay, let me build, clean the project, and rebuild the project. I mean, it should have disappeared that particular specific my application. I go into the string, I change that particular first linear layout. What's happening? Dark action bar. Yeah, it has changed. So why it is not changing my style? If I just go back here, no action bar. Fine. Yeah, it is changing now. Okay, so of course we don't want to I just change it back. Instead of I say that dark action bar. Okay, I keep it same, and as I told. So these are the different components of your project. We have the manifest file, we have the Java code files, and then we have these resource folder in which we have different type of resources. We can also have some other resource folders which we can create in that one. We can always go right click on that particular specific resource folder, go into that one. I want to create an Android resource directory, and then look at that. We have the layout is there, map is already there, we have navigation, we have raw, we have transition, we have XML, we have menu. If you want to create a menu that you want to display here on that particular action bar menu, if you want to, then you have to create that particular menu resource folder, and inside you create a menu resource file. Okay, so that we will see later in this course, but this is the structure of your project, how it is working, what are the different components, and how they are going to communicate with each other. If we look at that particular, here we are saying that on create of that particular activity, it will set the contents, the view, the graphical user interface according to the layout that you are developing here. Is it fine till now?
Yes.
Fine. So let me stop my video here. That's only the introduction.